Hi, everybody. Jordan DeCary here with At the Apex, episode number 2, Kana Matsumoto. We listened to Kana's unique story of how she came from Japan as a motorcycle technician, worked her way into motorcycle racer, professional motorcycle racer. You're not going to want to miss this episode. Please, while I've got your attention, it doesn't cost you anything. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. It certainly helps me in determine whether we keep going with this or we quit while we're ahead. Please let me know either way. Thanks for watching. So welcome to At the Apex, Kana Matsumoto. I'm really excited to have you on the show. I'm excited to hear about your unique story. Everybody has a unique story of how they started into motorcycle racing, and I am intrigued and want to hear more about your story. So maybe let's start with what first brought you to motorcycle racing, if there was a specific moment or person that kind of got you into racing.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This is exciting, and I am honored to be chosen to be in your show. Thank you. How I got into the motorcycle racing? Well, in the 90s, it's a long story. I was in Japan. I grew up in Japan, and in the mid 90s, I had an opportunity to help a local private team. Back then, there was a GP bikes was a mainstream, not like a production bikes like now. So yeah, I joined. It was not special, anything crazy work. It was just a general helper. They call it helper work. So just like a slave, you do whatever you're told to do. So I wasn't racing. I never thought I will be racing in my life at all back then. So I was helping some local team in the 90s before I came to Canada. Then I moved to Canada in the late 90s. And then I met my, well, now it's an ex-husband, unfortunately, but I met this person. And then he always wanted to race in the motorcycle. So I said, okay, well, I know how it works. I never raced, but I'll help you and let's go racing. So how I actually ended up being into this motorcycle racing industry in Canada. And then when we went to Shannonville, there was back then Shannonville was a big on racing. If you show up on Friday evening, there is no spot. You get lucky if you find a spot to pit. So yeah, it was very popular back then, and it was a big racing community. And then I was helping my ex-husband back then. Then I was watching racing all day long, and there was girls racing. They had their own series, Women's Cup Challenge, I think it was called.
Did that
There,
turn into like Formula Femme? Is that what that was around that era, or was that before
no,
that?
that it was before that.
Okay,
There was
okay.
a separate thing. This the women's race series was this more like a national series. So we went everywhere. It was not just at Shannonville, but they come to the Shannonville when they had a regional series too. And I saw those girls racing, and then I was there, and I knew how to ride a motorcycle because I was riding on the street. So I was watching them and see, you know what? I'm here, helping, and maybe I should give it a shot. It looks like fun, and that's how I started. I never had a track day. I only had a 1 day of fast racing school, race riding school, and I did one day, the phase one, and then I just joined and start racing at that point.
That's pretty cool. So at that point in time, it was all how many female riders were in that group at that time, would you say?
That time, I think they had a good size. They had two classes within that series. So one is for novice, they call it novice group, and the other one was expert. Each classes had probably five, six at least. So about always like we had 10 probably bikes on the grid. It was good for a female class.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. And what were you riding at that point? What you're on a Honda now. Were you
Yeah.
always on Hondas?
No, it's a great question. Since I actually never rode a sport bike even on the street until that point. So the 600 bikes are really intimidating for me. So I started Suzuki SV650. It's a great bike to start. It
Okay,
is a
so
still full size bike. Yeah.
we have something in common. My very first sport bike in 2005 was an SV650. So an
Oh,
S model. So
yep.
I'm aware of the V twin, the the little quirks of a V twin bike, and they're well versed bikes. I
Yeah.
mean, at one
It is a
point,
great bike. Yeah.
yeah, at one point, CSBK had I think it was it
SV
the
Cup.
S? Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
I
so
I actually ran the series too. Yeah.
that's very cool. Okay,
Yeah.
so you started on the SV650. How long did you ride that bike for?
I rode that bike for 4 years.
Okay,
Um, I switched. I also raced the SV Cup series, so with the boys. So I ran two classes normally at the regional and also at the national.
very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and you mentioned something there about now you're stepping into the realm of, what is maybe a predominantly male, sport. What was that like for you? Being one of the female riders in there, did they treat you any differently, or was it, you were part of were you part of the group and a part of the boys group?
Mhm. It is a great question. Um, I wanted to mention about this too. The reason why I love this sport is they treat you as a racer. You don't see you as a female or male, or you're white, black, Asian, whatever. They don't really care about your background. You just go out and race with anybody once you go to the grid. We're all just racers, and we start and we race together. So yeah, that's one reason why I really liked racing with the boys class, because they don't treat me like anybody different. You know, it's a fairground. You're on a bike and you just race together.
And I
Yeah.
can say, based on my experience, you race extremely well with the boys. You're right in there neck and neck with them, giving them a really good run. So, um, and I would agree. I would echo what you're saying in that. At the end of the day, we're all competitors, but at the same time, we're all looking out for each other, and we have the common goal of going faster. So that brings me to my next question: is um, what is something maybe that you want to see um, improve in the racing? And is there anything specific in the racing environment itself that you'd want to see improve? I know that's kind of a loaded question, but is there anything that comes to mind where you're like, we could do better as a group for something like that?
Well, I think so. We had a great community, great people. That's one of the most important things that I want to be in. Not, just being competitive racing is one thing. It's important too, of course, but being in a community and share our passion is most important things for me anyway, personally, and that's why I've been doing this. So this is something that we can do or improve, is to share our passion and joy and to have more inviting environment for the new people. There are so many people out there. It is an intimidating sport to get into, and I understand that too. I was fortunate enough that I had a help or a one step get into the sport when I started, so it wasn't easy for me to go into that sport. But for anybody, who never seen or don't know any people, it is intimidating. So it's something that we can share. Like, this is great that you're doing this show. We open up something for somebody who don't know about this sport. So, this is something that we want to do. We can share our community and open up the door.
So, what would you say, Canna, to maybe not even just another female rider that's maybe
Mm-hmm.
contemplating stepping up to racing? Maybe they're doing track days right now, or
Yeah.
maybe they're just street riding, but they have that competitive edge, and they maybe want to improve not only themselves, but they want to, just go fast on the track. What would you say to somebody that's maybe on the edge? Is it, yeah, like go for it, or – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – ––
Definitely go for it. Come and try. I'll be there most of the time. I help at the track day at Shenandoah also, and quite often I help the female riders at the track day too. And I'm honored to do that, be able to do that. Giving the help. So yeah, anybody who is interested, come and try. We have quite a few girls racing there too. So we are there to help. Any advice, anything, just show up and we'll help. Yeah,
And that's
come and
great
talk to
advice.
us.
And I mean, even if you're on the edge, like Canna says, just show up. Even if you're maybe hesitant to ride, come out to a weekend, get to experience, the camaraderie, the companionship of everybody, and get to see
Yeah,
what it's like to be a part of that racing community. I think that's a really good piece of advice.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit more about your racing specifically and your plans. Last year was your inaugural year as a pro rider. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct. I don't know if I should call myself a pro. I it is overwhelming for me, and there are so many better racers out there that should be called pro than me. I always just joke around that I should have a gray number, not a black number.
I think you're selling yourself a little bit short here because, again, I've seen you mixing it up at the front of the pack going for those podium spots. So I think you're being extremely humble, and I think you're deserving. You've put the effort in, you've put the time in. So um, I think no gray numbers. I think it should be black numbers. I stand behind that decision. I think it's awesome to see you in the pro sport bike field.
Thank you.
For 2025, are any changes? Are we thinking like your sport bike class? You mentioned the 99 horsepower Honda when we were going back and forth through messages. Is that the plan for 2025? Is to continue on that bike and in that class?
Yeah, that would be my plan. Like I said, the 600 bikes are more than enough for me. 99 horsepower, even 89 horsepower. Even SV 650 was a very good bike and a good enough power for me. So yeah, I don't need any bigger bikes. I don't need to step up to any different classes. I can still do better on my bike, so I will focus on that and just be better at it every time I go out. That's my goal every time. And I'll be racing at Shannonville with the new series, racemoto.ca. It is a very exciting start, and I want to be a part of it. And I'll be so excited. I'll be very very excited being a part of that new series.
That's awesome to hear, and I like what you said there. Every time that you're going out, you want to be better. That's something that I think we overlook. We're sometimes we get caught up and we're chasing maybe a podium position, but focusing on specific riding or a specific corner going out, how many times do you have to hit that same corner to
The apex.
yeah, exactly, the apex, yes. So I think that's super important, and that's a really good mindset to have, which is another reason why I really wanted you to come on to the show, because I really believe that you have that racing, the background and the knowledge that really makes a good rider. So that's good to hear. Now I want to ask you something, and I've noticed it on race weekends. You and I pass each other typically on the return drag straightaway. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about on other two wheelers. I wanted to talk about pre-race rituals and if there's anything specific you do to get ready for that time that that horn goes and we're ready to race. Is there anything specific you do?
One thing I do or been doing last couple of years, I take my bicycle and I ride over to the other side of Shannonville. It's in the back end. It's the Fabi side, and the back, and it is very quiet back there. And it gives me a good warm up run also, but at the same time, mentally, you know, I have this quiet moment on the other side of the racetrack, and that I think that helps me to, stay calm and focused. And that's something I've been doing the last few years. Yeah.
I'm usually a little bit later getting to the party. You're usually on your return trip as I'm heading out on my bicycle going that
Yeah, I
way.
see you there. Yeah, wait.
And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, uh-oh, I'm going to be late. Kana's already coming back. So yeah, I think that's important too. Getting a huge part of racing, would you agree, is your mental mindset and your preparation before a race?
Yeah.
That's a huge part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about. So you've been racing. Would you is it since 2000s? You would say, or is it 90s?
2000s. No, not 90s. I wasn't racing. I was just helping. I wish I started in the 90s though.
Let's talk about your maybe your most memorable moment racing.
This is probably the only win I had with the class with the boys in the SB. It was 2009, I think it was. It was a mix of rain, wet, dry. It's a very difficult condition. Um, I had a good tire choice. I had reins on, and some guys had like a half and half. Some got front um, rain and rear, whatever. Everyone had a totally mixed tires, and I had both reins, and that gave me a confidence. And I ended up winning the race, and I thought that was one of the best races that I've done.
And what track was that at?
That was Shenandoah. I think it was a long track. That
Okay.
was my favorite. Yeah. Now I love long track too.
That I can see why that would be a favorite after. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything you mentioned that win in SB Cup? Is there
Mhm.
anything that you still want to accomplish? In you've had a long racing career. Is
Mhm.
there anything that you're wanting to accomplish that's still on that list of things to check off?
Great question. Well, in my class right now, resistant pro, it is very difficult to be even competitive. It is tough, and I don't know what I can accomplish at this point, but I had some like lap times that I always wanted to hit, and I haven't been able to do it. So for each different layout of the Shenandoah track, I think I wanted to beat my personal best still this year, and I think I can still do it. Probably that would be my goal. I like to work on a little bit more on suspension side. I've been trying different things, and I have been studying how suspensions work and all that in the last few years. So I want to continue working on that side, and also and I can try to understand better. And possibly, I can gain a little bit more confidence and beat my personal best from
Okay.
15 years ago.
I'm confident that you can do that. I think that's a good goal is, focusing maybe more so on lap times than positioning. Um, and again, I feel like, that's the mature rider in you that's coming out and saying, I really want to focus on lap times. I mean, you can always chase the podiums, but if you can't, put consecutive laps together consistently, it's
Yeah,
going to make it really challenging. So I think that's a great mindset, and it's something for the younger riders or the novice riders that it's really important to focus on is, hitting your marks each lap, and that speed is going to come as you get more and more consistent, right? So
you got it
a
right. Yeah,
that's a really
100%.
good point.
Hmm.
Now, you touched on the teaching and the training.
Yeah,
Do you feel like that's a benefit to you as well when you're doing that instruction?
yeah, 100%. It is a beneficial. When you go slower while you're teaching, the things you normally don't see when you go fast. And when you're at the race weekend, you try to go fast, right? And sometimes you forget those like a little basic stuff and the things that you forget to see things. And when you go slower while you're coaching, uh, kind of it reminds you that that's something that you forgot to see. and hitting the each exact point. Sometimes they put the cones on the track, and we don't have that on race weekend, but we get that on the school days and not track days. So those cones are very helpful. And while I'm coaching, I'm showing, so I try to hit those cones exactly, perfectly. And that actually helped my racing during the season too in the past.
Yeah, and I didn't have a lot of chance. I think last year was the first year that I got to coach with you
Yeah, yeah.
in the May race group, and I thought that was, like you say, that was extremely beneficial. That and even doing a track walk, and I think a lot of people, or a track bicycle. I've also seen Kana out bicycling doing laps around the track. I think that's extremely helpful, and that's another a great point for an up and coming rider is to, to slow down, have a look. Don't slow down too much because you might be, seeing the grass coming up through the cracks. But it's good to kind of see where you can, put your wheels and try to hit that spot each time.
Yeah.
So, is there anything that you were wanting to talk about?
I want to more share, and I want to give back to the sport and the community. And winning a race is great for me, but I don't think it's a really realistic a goal for me at this point, like I mentioned before. But at the same time, I have this experience. I'm older, and I think I have something that I can share with anybody. Even my fellow racers. I want to encourage them. I want to be a cheerleader sometimes. I want to, give them a confidence boost, something, and that's a little tiny bit of just word or comment. Sometimes this makes a huge difference. And I want to be that kind of person to give back to everybody. And that will be my goal. I think it's no goal, but, something I want to do probably in the future, including this upcoming season.
I really like that. It's a great way of looking at, the sport and, in general, and then just the Shannonville community. I know it's challenging and it's getting harder. Have you seen any change in, willingness for sponsorship or donations or anything like that over your years? Have you seen a change that way?
Great question, because everybody's looking for any help. This is not a easy sport financially. I am lucky enough to have this great sponsor over my racing career. He's he owns a body shop, so it's called the Lake Ridge Collision Center. Sorry. So he's been helping me paint my body work, and a few times that we always crash that we cannot avoid, and we want to look pretty. We can repair the bikes, but the body work makes pretty much everything how your bike looks, right? So yeah, those sponsorships been great. But I noticed that it is very difficult to find any other sponsorships, any sort of help, tires, any financial support. This motorcycle community and racing get together and have more positive vibes and open up the doors to more publics, not just within the motorcycle community and industry. I think it will open up the opportunity for support and newer sponsors and businesses. Not easy. I've tried many different ways, and clearly it wasn't successful. So I wish I had a great answer for this, but I don't, and it is difficult. That I know.
Absolutely, and we thank you, Lake Ridge Collision, for supporting Kana. This is that's
Thank you.
awesome to hear. We can say their name and get them some exposure as well. We have to do that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I would say you're right. It is extremely challenging, and I'm hopeful that Dave, Jill, and Allison with RaceMoto.ca They've already announced some contingency for classes, so that's
Yeah,
fantastic. Putting money back towards,
yeah,
entry fees, towards tires, towards something, fuel. That's a huge thing. So that's
for
that's great.
sure.
I'm
I have to
hopeful.
mention my good friends also, Louis and Annie Rafa. They stepped up and they contributed something for the series. So I think this is a great opportunity, and we need to thank them for the contribution too.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Luann Printing, thank you for stepping up and sponsoring the racemoto.ca
Yep,
classes.
yep.
Kana, we have 30 seconds. Thank you very much for bringing your story to the spotlight today. I know we just scratched the surface, but I'm very appreciative that you were willing to join me today.
Thank you for
We're
having me.
we're looking to spread the word. New riders come out. Don't
Yes,
hesitate. Come talk
yep.
to Kana at her pit. Come talk to me. Anybody in the
Anybody.
Shannonville
Yep.
pit is willing to talk to you about racing. Um, so yeah, thank you again, Kana. Episode number 2
Thank
in the
you.
books. Thank you everybody for watching at the Apex episode number 2, and thank you, Kana, for giving us the background on what makes you tick as a motorcycle rider. I think there was a lot of key points there and takeaways from that, whether you're looking to improve your riding as a racer or you're looking to make the jump from track day rider to racer. A lot of key points and takeaways there. If there's somebody you'd want to see on the show, please drop me a comment, send me a message, and thanks again for watching.